Welcome to Leaders on the Mic. As you know, we are at Velocity filming all these incredible leaders. As you know, we invite leaders, but not any leader. We invite the leaders that are brave enough to be using their voices to create a change. And because being a leader is great, but being a leader that actually is willing to gamble on a mission, I think it's even more admirable. And that's the name of the podcast. Leaders on the Mic. Those are the ones that we want here. It's just a pleasure to have you here, Rick. And I'm going to say, I want you to introduce yourself, but I just want to say something. Rick is a producer and a director that has done tremendously well. His success, early on, he was one of the innovators in the pioneers in non-scripted shows. He's done tons of them very successfully, and his latest movie is really a representation of one of our passions, which is show stories of Latinos that are not usually shown in media, and it's called A Million Miles Away. And I'm sure that, lots of you in the audience have seen it. It did tremendously well. He's going to share a little bit of that success. But, I was listening to him and, it was #1 in Croatia and the most, incredible countries that show. And you showed with that content that our stories travel.
Yeah,
they travel globally. So tell us, first of all, about Rick. Tell us about you. Tell us. I would love if you share that story you were telling me before about how you got to this point where you have, as a very important part of your mission, to give back.
Well, what happened was when I was a young actor in the 80s, I graduated from UCLA. And the first 2 roles that I booked were Colors and Fatal Beauty. Colors with Sean Penn.
Of course.
Directed by Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
And Fatal Beauty with Tom Holland, the director. And both I played cholos, East LA cholos. And it was so far from who I was that I kind of was like, what? But those were the only roles that were out there at the time. So we had to take them to work.
Of course, absolutely.
And then I met my wife, who at the time wasn't my wife, and her family, the Martinez family. And they had moved from Albuquerque to Los Angeles. And Patricia was the lead in a movie called Three Amigos. And Benita was Chevy Chase's love interest. And Patricia had gone to RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. And she had said to me, in order to distinguish yourself from others, you need to really be educated in the arts. I had gotten my degree in economics from UCLA. But then she helped me audition, and I got into the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, to LAMDA. So then I left and went to LAMDA. And when I came back, I booked this job. And it was on a soap opera. And so I would work for 2 years on a soap opera, and I was an actor. And I played Rio Dumet. He was this Latin guy.
Don Juan.
Yes. I was and he ended up at the end of at the end of 2 years, I was like a chemist at a lab or something, like a makeup lab. But while we were doing that show, Mary Ellis sold a little show to MTV called The Real World. So she moves back to Los Angeles. She knows I wanted to be more than just an actor. And so I started working for her in the unscripted world. And that's where that kind of came from. Cut to all of a sudden, Survivor hits, becomes mainstream. All of us end up starting our own companies. I'm part of a team that creates this show called The Surreal Life on VH1. And that, you have to remember, back then was a celebrity show wasn't in existence at that time. And so we had to convince these celebrities to be a part of this. So it became a cultural hit. VH1 was nothing at the time. It was music.
Yeah. I remember that.
So then it became a channel. So that was for many years. And then I actually went in and became an executive at Sci-Fi. So I got to get behind the scenes experience of what it was like to actually buy shows from people.
Yeah.
And I started to understand that there's a lot more that goes into the decision than just the idea of the show. There's so much more that goes into it. And so once I was done with that, I took a couple of years off and I was like, do you still want to keep doing this or do you want to do something different? And that's when I called my brother-in-law and I said, you know what? We have to start producing our own material. And he was like, well, how do we do that? And I said, we got to find things that nobody's paying attention to. Well, the Latino market, nobody's paying attention to.
Exactly.
So I said, he goes, well, what do we do? And I said, we got to find a project. And I found this book called Reaching for the Stars. Saw this picture of this Latino astronaut. And I was like, that's not something you see every day. I read it and I was like, this is an incredible story. Not because it's a Latino story, because it's an incredible story of a human being who happens to be Latino and what he and his family went through. It was family, perseverance, hard work, everything. I called him the Rocky Balboa of astronauts. And so we ended up putting the team together and getting it sold. And it took us a while, but we got it done.
You did.
And to me, that is the focus of my development is I look for great stories that happen to have Latino leads. They don't always have Latino leads. And if there are times where I could put one in, great. But I have other projects that,
don't have
Latino leads.
Of course.
I'll figure out, it might be the director. It might be, cinematographers. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
So
it's that part of and people say, people that know like you, they say it's as easy as just put a Latino there. And you're saying in a lot of different ways, you do that, right? I mean, if it's a story, that's great, but, having the decision making that you have.
But it's not charity. I'm not going to give somebody a job
not at
because
all.
they're Latino.
Of course.
But when I'm interviewing 10 people, I want to see the top 3 Latinos in the room too.
Exactly. Competing.
Competing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, when you're playing in the Major League Baseball, they're not going to give you a job because you're a Latino.
No.
But you got to hit the ball. You better steal bases. And you better catch.
Yes.
Just like everybody else.
Absolutely.
And the process that I just went through with Million Miles Away, there are plenty of writers, directors, actors, and producers that are Latino.
Yeah, of course. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Plenty.
The level of,
yes.
And it traveled so incredibly well. People in the world, they don't see, it's a Latino movie. No, it was an incredibly inspirational movie. I want you to tell us a little bit about how you came to that come to Jesus moment in 2012. But also, I really don't want us to forget how you said sometimes when you're the most specific is when you travel the best.
Right.
And that point, nobody had, I believe that, and I've tried to articulate it, but I don't have the experience. It was just my observation. I love that you articulated it so well and that you've seen it based on experience. So let's start with your story of how you came to that point where you realized you needed to have, pay forward. Yes, exactly.
In my work.
Exactly.
I was doing reality television for a long time and I could have continued. And life would have been great and financially, had its rewards. But I was at a crossroad in my life where it was like, I really want to make a difference.
Exactly.
And you have an opportunity to help people and you have an opportunity, you have a voice.
Yeah.
And so.
And you have capacity to decide.
Yes. But I was smart enough to know that I couldn't do it alone. And that everybody that I attached to this project had to add value to it and be as excited about it as I was. Because it's almost like you're birthing a child and then they take it over and you're like, that's my kid. Be nice with it, please.
Yes.
But you want that.
Yeah.
You want that energy. Yeah. And I thought we did a tremendous job making the right decisions for everybody that came on board. From producers to actors, directors, and then the production company. We shot this movie in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
100%.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I think one of the most proud things was the photo of the rap with the crew. And I look, and it was all Latinos. All of them. Everybody. And they were smiling and happy and they weren't burned out and they weren't tired. And it was a tremendous production.
I love that.
Awesome.
It sounds like, and you could tell in the product, the final product.
Yes.
There was this
There was joy.
love. Yes, there was this light, and I think that's one of the reasons of the success. Right? That was amazing.
Yes.
Now, talk to us specifically about also that movie. How you explain this phenomenon of being specifically.
Well, I think that in the 80s and the 90s, I think that no fault of their own, but I think when projects that were being developed that were Latin themed, so to speak, they tried to be all things to all people.
100%.
And, you know, you got to get your Cuban in there. Oh, you got to get your Puerto Rican in there. You got to get your Mexican in there. You got to get your Guatemalan in there. You got to get your Brazilian in there. And it's like it's like trying to appease all the groups. And with this story, this was a very Mexican story about a Mexican family. And I just had a gentleman walk up to me and say, thank you. Because when I was watching this movie, the music that you guys picked was so reminiscent of what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Of my parents and my grandparents. And he literally had tears in his eyes and was like, it was unbelievable to see that was my family up there.
Yeah.
And I think that Alejandra did a great job. I mean, even the opening number of California Dreamin', where it was in Spanish, and then when it crosses the border, it goes into English. That was a very subtle thing, but it was...
Totally. It was part of the journey. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant moment.
Yeah. So it needed to be specific, and in being specific, I think all cultures can understand that.
I agree. It's almost like wanting to be something for everybody is non-authentic.
Right.
It's almost like it takes away from the authenticity.
Yes.
And you know what, Rick? I know this is kind of interesting for me to say and maybe politically incorrect, but also when you talk about the Latino community, approximately 60% is Mexican. When you see the content for Latinos, it's very geared towards Puerto Ricans and
New York,
like East Coast, right? So Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Venezuelans. When you talk about the business angle, you gotta realize that 60% is Mexican, because it's like
and 60% aren't all from East LA.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm Mexican from California, but I'm from Hayward.
Exactly.
So I didn't grow up like that.
Yeah.
And not that it's bad. I just think that that's not the only thing we are.
Exactly.
When you think of a Mexican from California, you think East LA. No, there's plenty of Latinos on the West Side. There's plenty of Latinos in the Valley.
Yeah. No, I agree. But there are common things with Mexicans that made that guy tell you that his parents listened to the same music. And maybe he was in Texas and this family is in California.
Yes.
So I think that also if you want for that commercial success, for that part of where our numbers in the Latino Donor Collaborative are good for business, you also have to take that in account.
Yes.
And that even if it sounds a little bit, exclusive, it's not. When it's authentic, and to be authentic, unless you're in a boarding school of Latinos and there's Latinos from all around the world, a Cuban with a Puerto Rican with a Mexican together, it's not that authentic in so many ways, right? So, and again,
I think that's the challenge in our community is that, you're trying to unite all these different, because we have different cultures. We have same things, but, there's a lot of differences. But you can't please them all at the same time. Just tell that story this time.
Exactly.
And then we'll get to other stories.
Exactly. So I think what I love from what you're saying is that I saw it, and I've seen it as an observer, but also I love also that we're saying it. Because sometimes, even within our community, we need to say things. And we need to say things that may not be popular, right? Like everybody's into... we should include everybody, and every country of Latin America should be represented. And the truth is that that's impossible. So
Right.
if we make a story about a Chilean and we make a story about an Argentinian and a Mexican, I think it's 3 stories that are great. But
It's like saying European.
exactly.
Well, that's European. Yeah, but what kind
They're
of
smaller.
European?
They're much smaller than Latin America,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, if you try to make a movie of a Spaniard with an Italian, it will never happen.
Exactly.
And so,
Or
no,
French
I love
with
it.
German, or with Portugal with Italy. It's like
Exactly.
they're all European, but they're not the same.
Completely different. And they feel like brothers and sisters. That's why they have the European Union. But it's still not authentic if you try to make one for both countries.
Right.
You know what I mean? No. So, no, I completely agree. And I really appreciate that thought. I really, really appreciate it. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to close with you telling me what we can do. And let me tell you why. Because you're doing your job. You've tremendously successful. You have examples to show us from the outside. You have content that you have created for us to feel represented. So you're doing your job. You're choosing when you have the chance and you have this decision making to do the stories that need to be told. What can we, the audience, do to support you when you go to those studios, to those networks, and you say, you need to do this story. You need to amplify your vision of who Latinos are. You need to do more shows. What can we do as audience?
As an audience, or
As audience. As audience.
No. I was going to say, because the challenge, I think, for any independent producer is finances.
Yeah.
You know, no one pays me on a daily basis to do what I do.
Right.
So I pay myself
Yeah. Yeah.
with investing in myself,
Yeah.
investing in my stories.
Yeah.
I don't have an overall deal where somebody's paying me $150,000 a year and I got a development fund. So I have to be smart about my overhead, you know, all my bills, everything, to be able to do this. But also, I have to figure out how to get writers attached without paying them. I have to figure out, so it's all about the story.
Yeah.
The story has got to be so unbelievable that people are like, wow, I want to
get
be a part of
inspired.
that.
Yes.
I want to be a part of it.
Even if you're not paying me yet. Yes.
We're going to go do this because I'm betting on this too. And I mean, that's the only way it gets done
Absolutely.
right now.
So
It'd be great if you had a development fund and you had money to pay some people and pay yourself a little bit, not a lot, but just to cover your bills. But I'm going to do it regardless.
So we need to put together a development fund with the rich Latinos in the United States and in other countries, Latino countries too.
Sure.
Because this is like the image of Latinos in the United States affect tremendously the perception of the United States of other countries. So that's one thing that has to be put together. You also need individuals that have the capacity to invest, whether it's $500,000 or $10 million,
Yes.
to jump on board with producers like you
With the projects.
the content.
Yes. But I get it. I know it's scary to be writing a check for $10 million and going,
Yes,
am I going to get it back? You hope you find people who would write that check and go, if I don't get it back, okay, but I want to, but that story needs to get out there. And we need to get that story out there.
Exactly.
Because that image is so important.
Absolutely. And what I was saying is, we, the masses, right? I think that we can also start exercising our voice
Sure.
to tell studios with our pockets and our purses what we like, what we don't want, what we're not going to support. Our purchasing power, have a lot of impact. As we saw with the Latino Donor Collaborative, 4.1 purchasing power of Latinos is tremendous. So we need to start.
We're working on something now that is going to give us an opportunity we don't have to go ask for permission anymore.
Oh my God.
We get to decide what we're going to do. And then we're going to take care of it ourselves. And we'll go after the 18 billion that they don't want to go, and we'll do it.
Oh my God, Rick, that's
If
fantastic.
you told me I had an $18 billion mobile app that you can get to, shoot,
Exactly.
I would go for it. And so,
Absolutely.
so we're no longer going to ask permission anymore.
I love that. Promise to come back when
I will.
when
We're
you
working
can
on
announce
it now.
something.
We're working on it now.
Yes,
Putting the
promise
team
that
together.
you'll come back and
Yes.
tell us about it.
Yes.
And we promise to bring you the audience that we have so that they run to
So
you.
you feel like your voice is being heard of what gets made and what you want to support.
I love that. Wow. Thank you, Rick. As always, your words of wisdom are a gift.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a leader on the mic.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this. This is tremendous. This is such, like you said, this is just data. This isn't
Exactly. It's a business
This
premise,
isn't political. This is
right?
data.
It's not political.
No, this is financial.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know
Yes.
what? It's an economic opportunity.
Yes.
It's a business decision.
Yes.
And so that's why I know
If we
what,
were in real estate, I'd be like,
exactly.
let's go.
There
Start
you
building
go.
these houses, man.
Right? I mean, like McKinsey saying it's 18 billion and they still don't see it. And, you know, everybody going to YouTube and to other little new platforms because, you know, we don't see ourselves reflected and they still don't get it. You need to get it. That project that you're talking about that I really want to hear about needs to do
As
it.
soon as we get the team together, we're working on a couple more positions, but once it gets formed and we already know what we're going to do, we just have to get the team together.
Well, let us help.
They're slowly-
However capacity we can.
Okay.
Let us help. And I can't wait to have you again.
Good? Good.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And again, your time is precious.
Thank you.